This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Friday, September 18th. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look a little different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. We begin our coverage with a shocking story out of Mozambique, where the military is condemning horrifying footage that has emerged of men in the military uniform beating and apparently executing a naked, unarmed woman. Human rights group Amnesty International says it is not the first time allegations of such abuses have emerged, and we want to warn you that several images are disturbing. Here's David Doyle with details.
Men in military uniforms pursue a naked, unarmed woman along a road in northern Mozambique. They beat her with a stick before shooting her in the back as she tries to flee. Mozambique's army has called the footage above all condemnable. But David Massigné from rights group Amnesty International says it's not the first such allegation against the military.
That this kind of evidence has come out is significant in the sense that it fits perfectly with all the evidence and the allegations that we have seen.
Mozambique's defense and security forces went on to say it does not agree with any barbaric act that substantiates the violation of human rights. It did not specifically deny that government soldiers were responsible, but also called for the video's authenticity to be investigated. Amnesty's Massigné says they've ascertained it was shared privately on September the 7th, and by comparing satellite imagery from June 2020 with landmarks in the video, Reuters has verified the location, an area of the northernmost Cabo Delgado province where the military is battling insurgents. In the video, the soldiers taunt the woman as Al-Shabaab, the local term for an Islamist group operating in the area, and Massigné said a number of factors suggest the perpetrators could be government soldiers.
The guns they are using, what they are saying, the languages they are speaking, and the location where these events are taking place, the outfit of the soldiers all point in the direction of the armed forces of Mozambique.
After a recent escalation in the insurgency in an area that is home to gas projects by oil majors such as Total, the security forces responded. Last week, Amnesty International said it had verified videos showing attempted beheadings, torture and other ill treatment of prisoners, the dismemberment of alleged opposition fighters, and possible extrajudicial executions. The government dismissed those allegations, saying insurgents regularly impersonated soldiers in an attempt to confuse national and international opinion.
David Doyle of Reuters with that report. A Rwandan judge has denied bail to Paul Rusesabagina, the man portrayed in the Hollywood movie Hotel Rwanda, for his role during Rwanda's 1994 genocide. His lawyers asked for the bail on grounds that Rusesabagina was not well and needed to seek medical treatment. However, the judge Thursday ordered him jailed for 30 days because she says there's enough evidence that Rusesabagina committed the crimes he is alleged to have committed, and that Rusesabagina failed to prove how his imprisonment would deny him the medical attention he says he needs. Rusesabagina is charged with 13 counts, including terrorism, complicity in murder, and forming or joining an irregular armed group. David Rugaza, one of Rusesabagina's lawyers, says he has appealed the judge's ruling. Social media companies are taking down videos and images that could be vital in prosecuting serious crimes, according to a new report from Human Rights Watch. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are increasingly using artificial intelligence algorithms to remove material deemed offensive or illegal. Human Rights Watch says vital evidence is being missed or destroyed. Henry Ridgwell explains.
the Russian missile launcher that prosecutors say was used to fire the weapon that brought down Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 in 2014. The videos were collated from social media sites by the organisation Bellingcat, whose evidence was used by the multinational joint investigation team leading the criminal investigation. Russia denies involvement.
What we know from Bellingcat is at some point in the later stages of the investigation, they went back to look at the sources, some of the social media posts that they'd used to substantiate their investigations in order to provide that to judicial authorities in the Netherlands. And at that point, the content had come down.
Evidence from social media plays a central role in many investigations, like these videos uncovered by Amnesty International, purportedly showing abuses carried out by the Nigerian army during its offensive against the terror group Boko Haram. In its new report, titled Video Unavailable, Human Rights Watch warns vital evidence is being deleted.
What we started to notice in the last few years, particularly since 2017, is that we would see a video of, let's say, soldiers executing someone or, an ISIS propaganda video. And, if 15 minutes later, an hour later, we went back to look at the video again, it was suddenly gone.
Social media companies told Human Rights Watch they are required by law to remove material that could be offensive or incite terror, violence or hatred. As well as human moderators, many also use artificial intelligence algorithms to take down material.
Nowadays, these algorithms are so effective that they are taking down content the minute it gets posted. So no user ever actually gets to see that content before it comes down.
That includes law enforcement agencies pursuing criminal convictions. The International Criminal Court issued its first arrest warrant in 2017 based largely on evidence collected from social media for the Libyan commander Mahmoud al-Werfali, accused of murdering several captives. Civil society groups like Syria Archive are using social media videos to document potential war crimes, including the use of chemical weapons.
What we're calling for is the creation of some kind of global mechanism, sort of an archive or library.
Human Rights Watch says it is in dialogue with social media companies about creating such an archive. Twitter said it is unable to provide civil society organizations access to users' content without an appropriate legal warrant. Facebook and YouTube had not responded to Human Rights Watch or VOA requests for comment by the time of publication. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced an easing of restrictions that will begin allowing travel in and out of the country starting October 1st. The move comes amid a substantial decline in coronavirus cases. Visitors coming from countries without high infection rates will be permitted to enter South Africa if they have a proof of a COVID-19 test no older than 72 hours prior to their departure. Ramaphosa says travelers without a valid COVID-19 test will be quarantined until an acceptable coronavirus test is presented. South Africa placed restrictions on international travelers in late March in an effort to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the country, which eventually increased to the largest total on the continent. South Africa has confirmed more than 653,000 infections with over 15,000 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University data. Ramaphosa also announced new public gathering requirements. Up to 250 people can now attend events indoors and 500 outdoors. South Africa's new curfew will last from midnight to 4 a.m. instead of starting at 10 p.m. Africa's network of airlines could take up to 3 years to rebound from the devastating impact of coronavirus-related travel restrictions, according to industry insiders. But this global crisis is allowing the battered industry to rethink and plan for a new, different way of doing things. VOA's Anita Powell reports from Johannesburg.
Africa's airlines have been grounded for months as nations have shut their borders to try to stop the spread of coronavirus. Now, as countries prepare to reopen their skies, the airlines cannot simply pick up where they left off, industry experts say. Since March, the livelihoods of some 3.3 million people, not just pilots but engineers, mechanics, and support staff, have hung in the balance as air carriers saw their income shrivel and their future grow increasingly uncertain. It is, says the head of one of Africa's largest airline associations, a grim picture.
By the middle of April, you had scheduled air traffic down at 95% below what was the February 2020 levels. So the airlines had to go into a cash preservation system where they had to obviously conserve cash and look at ways of reducing costs. And one of the major areas where they obviously looked at reducing costs was in the area of, unfortunately, their employees.
Pilot Carl Bolweg knows that firsthand. Right before South Africa announced its national lockdown, the veteran pilot flew his last flight for South African Airways domestic service. At 58, he says he's made peace with the fact that his long career ended that day with a whimper.
It was on the 15th of March. Actually, I didn't know that it would have been my last flight.
And where did you go?
Oh, I can't remember now. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question. I think it was... I'll have to check in my logbook.
But Ziegenthal says this could be a chance for the industry to make beneficial changes. Some airlines, he says, like continental leader Ethiopian Airlines, have converted passenger planes into cargo aircraft to meet the continent's continuing demand for goods because of a lack of transport infrastructure on the ground. Across the industry, he says, airlines are looking at how to build a diverse workforce. And he says, in coming months, passengers should expect to be courted by airlines as they try to win them back.
There's got to be a lot of marketing and convincing of the passengers that it is safe to fly and healthy to fly. And obviously, from that perspective, you will see initially quite a lot of low fares in the market.
He predicts that in South Africa, domestic travel will rebound by mid-2021. International travel will take longer, until 2023 or even 2024. But waiting in the wings are a new, hopeful group of staff, like 28-year-old flight instructor Kelly Slingers.
I think we're a very adaptable industry. If you look at 9/11, I think there's a lot of undecidedness right now. People are scared. But in the wake of 9/11, the industry came back. It took a couple of years for it to recover. And I think that's exactly what will happen to the aviation industry. We will recover.
And when it does, she says, the sky is the limit. Anita Powell, VOA News, Johannesburg.
A Cameroonian appeals court judge on Thursday upheld life sentences of 10 jailed Cameroon separatist leaders. The judge rendered his decision without giving defense lawyers an opportunity to make their case. A military tribunal in Yaoundé sentenced separatist leader Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and 9 others to life after they were convicted of terrorism and rebellion against Cameroon. The separatists are fighting for independence of Cameroon's 2 English-speaking regions. They were arrested in 2018 in Nigeria and deported to Cameroon. Amungwa Tanyi, a spokesperson for the jailed separatist leaders' legal team, says the ruling was a travesty of justice and that the separatist leaders plan to appeal to the Cameroon Supreme Court. In part 2 of my interview with Dr. Paula Danda of Worldwide Healing Hands, she talks about preventing fistula and how losing her own child inspired her to help others.
Supposing a woman is in labor and the baby gets stuck and they don't have access to having a C-section, these women often will develop fistulas. A fistula is a connection between the bladder and the vagina, or between the colon and the vagina, and these women will leak urine or leak feces, and they become ostracized from their whole community. They get thrown out of their house. So this is a woman who's endured a horrible labor, the baby has died, and now they're shunned by their community. So we do have means to go in and fix the fistula, but it's much better to prevent it by giving them access to a cesarean section if the baby does get stuck.
How do we get the community involved?
I found that, in my grief after losing a child, the best thing that I could do was to give to somebody else.
Did that happen here in America? Or
it happened here, and my child was grown up, but losing a child at any age is devastating. And I remember in Chad just hearing the woman wail, and the wail sounds the same in any country. It doesn't need any translation. When I came to this county, there was no obstetrician, gynecologist in this entire county. So we helped create an OB program, assuring that all women got prenatal care. At least once a month, a mother would walk in with a dead baby because she'd had no prenatal care. So now we have a very robust program where everybody has easy access to getting prenatal care.
And when did the calling come to say, you know what, I need to do this, I need to help out, and I need to expand this from the borders of the United States to Africa and Asia?
So that was in 2009 when I was invited to go to Chad to help women's health care. I decided that if I can do it here, you know, in this rural community, we can take that same program and help women all around the world. We have a program called Helping Babies Breathe. And this program, we teach the professionals that every baby should be breathing within the first minute of life. We teach them simple things like, you know, skin to skin, the baby needs to be kept warm, the baby needs to be stimulated.
What's the next thing you want to do, doctor?
The one thing that I want to do is eradicate cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is 99% preventable, and too many women are dying throughout the world from cervical cancer. They don't have any access to having a pap smear or having a test for HPV or getting the human papillomavirus vaccine that prevents cervical cancer. I've been trying to work with the Rotary organization to say, now that you've eradicated polio, let's eradicate cervical cancer. So that's my next big dream.
Michigan is one of several battleground states that could determine the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential election. President Donald Trump narrowly won the state in 2016, but current polls show his opponent, Democrat and former Vice President Joe Biden, in the lead. As VOA's Ken Parable reports, concerns about voter turnout and the pandemic weigh on the campaigns of both candidates.
Michigan voter Mickey Cook gives Republican Donald Trump high marks for his job performance as president.
Trump's done what he said he's going to do. That's the bottom line. Whether you like the guy or not, he's working hard, and I haven't seen any accomplishments from any political figure like I have from him, at least. The guy's nonstop.
But while he supports the president enough to attend one of Trump's airport campaign rallies near Saginaw, 4 more years! Cook, who also sold shirts at the event, isn't sure he'll actually vote in the November election.
Well, sometimes I don't feel the vote matters, and you get really disgusted with what's going on, and you feel like, what's the point?
We have an absentee ballot that we will be receiving, and we'll probably cast it that way, and we'll probably deliver it to a drop box.
Retired Grand Rapids business owner Brent Slay supports Democrat and former Vice President Joe Biden, who is running a mostly all-virtual Michigan campaign. Slay says Biden has broader appeal in Michigan than Hillary Clinton did in 2016.
There was not great enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders beat her in the primary in Michigan. I think that says a lot right there. And I don't think Michigan is an overtly liberal state. So I think there's far more enthusiasm for Joe Biden.
Dr. Mahmoud Al-Hadidi works in intensive care at a southeast Michigan hospital where he has treated many COVID-19 patients. He supported Clinton in 2016 and the state's current governor, Democrat Gretchen Whitmer, in her 2018 campaign.
I did support a lot of Democrats in the last cycle, yes, I could say that.
Is there a chance you might vote for Trump in this election?
There is, yes. There is. I did not make up my mind.
Dr. Al-Hadidi wants to see how Biden reaches out to Michigan's Muslim American community before making a final decision. one that could include not voting for either presidential candidate.
The Muslim communities, there's over 100,000 voters, and they could shift the results one way or another. We realize that, and I think the officials realize that.
4 years ago, Donald Trump pulled off a major surprise by becoming the first Republican presidential candidate to win Michigan since 1988.
Ordinarily, just in the normal course of things, we expect turnout to go up. But between 2012 and 2016, turnout in Michigan actually declined by 200,000 votes.
University of Michigan political science professor Michael Traugott says most of that decline occurred in and around the city of Detroit, an urban area with many African-American voters. Lower turnout allowed Trump to eke out a victory by about 10,700 votes out of more than 4.5 million ballots cast in the state.
The Democrats are not going to let the Republicans, the Trump campaign, sneak up on them again the way they did in 2016.
But how many voters will show up on Election Day, or vote early or by other means, is a greater uncertainty amid the pandemic, according to Northwestern University's Alvin Tillery.
People have shown a willingness to put it on the line and go vote. The dilemma is really around the suppressive efforts. I mean, you have people who are, working class, wage earners, that have kids in school, having to stand in line for 5-6 hours. It's going to make them want to punch out.
Trump supporter Mickey Cook doesn't think he'll wait long at his polling location. One reason he isn't ruling out voting in person.
There's a chance I could.
Cook says his biggest decision isn't who to vote for. It's overcoming the regret that comes with the alternative.
So I guess it's better to vote than to say I just did nothing.
Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Saginaw, Michigan.
It's time for our entertainment report, and Heather Maxwell, the host of VOA's Music Time in Africa radio show, takes us into the world of colors, specifically into the world of Nigerian artist Clement Colors. She interviews this prolific painter virtually in his art studio in Kaduna, where beauty, goodness, corruption, and even sexual violence are inspiring subject matter for his and his students' paintbrush.
Hello, joining me all the way from Kaduna, Nigeria is an amazing painter and artist. His name is Clement Colors. Hi Clement, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
At what point in your life and how did you decide you were going to be an artist and a painter?
As a kid, I didn't really know that I am going to become an artist, but I knew I was going to be an artist after my higher institution, that's after the university. When I went fully into it, that is when I knew that yes, this is where I belong.
Now, I'm joining you virtually. I'm in Washington, D.C., and you're there in your art studio in Kaduna. What goes on in the studio?
We do several activities here. We train the students, we train the youth, most especially in the community here. We train these guys on how they can become great artists, how they can draw, how they can paint using several media.
And what media do you specialize in? What do you use there?
We use several media, but we concentrate on the oil on canvas. Then we have the enamel on board. That's the slim board. This enamel on board is cheaper than the canvas. And here in this environment, most of the youth can't afford the oil on canvas, and we paint on the wall. But mostly we do our practicals on the wall. That's the graffiti aspect.
And what do you say to parents of your students who probably more often than not say, art is not going to bring our children and our family financial or professional success?
Due to the low art appreciation here in this community and in Kaduna State, we have reduced the level of the way we talk to parents. So if I should create a good artwork and they love it, they'll allow their kids to come, those that are interested, so that they can produce the same for them. And by the time they have it close to them, they will love it. So this is the only way I use to talk to parents. Because when you do it practically for them and they see it and they appreciate and love it, then they will release their kids to you.
What drives you personally to constantly be painting and creating?
The major driving force is beauty. Beauty drives me crazy a lot. When I see beautiful things, I want to create them. And when I sit down and I imagine beautiful stuff, I want to have it close to me.
Out of all of your work to date, what are the top most meaningful pieces to you?
It is the painting of my self-portrait I did. The one I closed my mouth with, the 1,000 naira note. That's the currency here in Nigeria. You see, it talks about the naira and then communication and then who you are. Like, if you should collect this naira note, you may not say what you want to say. So, if you do not say what you want to say, that simply means you are dying silently because you are not expressing yourself just because of that naira note. And the naira note can't satisfy your needs till eternity. Then the second painting that drives me crazy is the painting I created last year. It talks about rape in the society. On that painting, I showed people that in 2020, there will be a lot of rape cases. And it's going to take place even within family. So parents should be very careful with their children. And ladies should be careful wherever they go to.
Clement Colors, I wish we could talk all day, and I wish I could be right next to you in your studio. It's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your work and your creative process and the beauty that you show us around the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for this time.
That was Heather Maxwell, the host of VOA's Music Time in Africa radio program, speaking with Nigerian artist Clement Colors. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.